This is a vision that we've had to bring all these districts together that are in this ADC, this academic distress, and a time for us to really start working closer and closer together.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. And this is an extremely important issue. Obviously, 3 districts have been drastically affected by organized crime, if you will. I asked Mark, I said, "You sure you want me to sit up here and talk? Because I don't tend to play nice when it comes to House Bill 70. But again, my name's Tony DeMacchi. I'm the Vice President of Lorain Board of Education. And again, thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Good morning. Mr. DeMacchi and I have been on several different boards and events dealing with House Bill 70. But my name is Mary Rice. I'm from East Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you. I'm a board member this is my 4th year. Currently, I am, my board president appointed me as president of the House Bill 70 committee. And my thing is to get to do whatever I can to abolish House Bill 70.
Hi, I'm Ron Shad. I've been on the Youngstown City School Board for 5 years, and my role is similar to yours too. I'm the committee chair for our HB70 piece, and we've just been actively just wanting to bring attention to this issue because it's funny to me that they try to say that the 7 people that are on our board were bad for education, but didn't look at this law and what was going into place and how it took away voters' rights, taxpayer rights, and essentially is a union buster. So we're looking at this as saying, like, this piece of legislation destroys communities, not builds them up. So we've been fighting actively since the ruling came out.
Thank you. So to any of you or all of you, how has the ADC affected your district and your community as a whole?
When we first started in Lorain, we approached it as, and I promised myself I would never use this word because it's been so abused in Lorain. We promised ourselves we would collaborate with the state of Ohio and the Ohio Department of Education, the state superintendent. So we played nice. We approached it as a situation where, listen, it's inevitable. This bill's going to come down. We need to accept it. We need to embrace it. We need to do what we need to do. We got with all of our 7 unions and got contractual language that was aligned directly to House Bill 70. We got an academic plan with our current superintendent and all of our staff that was directly aligned with the language in House Bill 70. And all along the way, ODE and everybody patted us on the back and said, "Wow, you guys are doing great work. We're so happy. Everything's doing great in Lorain. Awesome." And that was with the first commission. The commission, they worked collectively with us, and we were at the table. And I believe at that time we all had the same mission and vision as far as enhancing our quality of education. Nobody on the Board of Ed or in our school district will ever say that, hey, listen, we don't do the best that we can. We need to get better. There's no question about that. But the reality is there are some barriers that we have not addressed, and House Bill 70 doesn't address them. So in the beginning, we embraced this process, and after they got rid of, as we went through the law, they abolished the first commission, and then Lorain got slapped in its face by the state of Ohio, and they got this new commission, and it was just downhill, where it was a takeover, an aggressive takeover, where they came in and just blew our district up. And it started with our central office. Our sitting superintendent, who had more qualifications than anybody that they searched and found, Dr. Jeff Graham, at the time. They did this national search and came up with these 5 candidates that had no qualifications whatsoever to run a school district. And then we get stuck with the buffoon we have now that it's just, you can't make up the nonsense that has occurred in our school district. And, currently as we sit, the irreparable harm that has occurred in Lorain to our students, to our community, to our teachers, it's been a blatant attack. And I said organized crime earlier because I believe it has been. I think this is the, for lack of better ways to put it, the most racist bill that I've ever seen. I mean, think about what this bill is attacking. It's attacking minority, urban, poverty-inflicted school districts. What are they doing? And I don't, I don't want to get off track here, and I don't want to offend any of our legislators here, because I do appreciate all the work that you guys are doing and your support, but I've lost complete faith in our legislative system in fixing this problem, because I mean, I'm not sure that Lorain's going to recover at this time, where we're at. And, this bill needed to be fixed a long time ago, a year and a half ago, to be honest with you. And the more time that we waste with the political nonsense that we have in Columbus, and I'm just going to say this, and I'll end it and move it on to you guys. But what I don't understand is our governor controlled our state board of education and our state superintendent to get House Bill 70 passed overnight. But yet here we are with bills that are going to fix a problem that clearly everybody has admitted is such a bad situation for public education. But yet now these bills have to go through this long process of getting the constitutional 3 hearings and making sure that we pass it through this House and pass it through the Senate. And, now we're going to push this along. But, our current sitting governor, who says that he is in support of fixing this problem, if our former government had control of our state superintendent or state board of education, why doesn't our current governor have that power? What are we doing? And, to be honest with you, Paulo DeMaria he's got to go. And if the governor believes in fixing this problem, then take control of your 9 appointments to that state board of education. You let them know, I need this fixed, I need it fixed now. But I mean, I can go on and on and on, but this bill is so bad, it's just done so much damage, and it makes my stomach sick just thinking about it in the time that we've dealt with this. So, and I know you're going to hear similar stories, because it's clear what House Bill 70 has done to public education, and more importantly to our poverty-afflicted and minority urban school districts that we're all sitting here to see.
Thank you. I'm just so upset that you're not passionate about this issue. Did he do a great job? He most certainly did. Everything that he has said, ditto. And let me add just a few other things. When I first heard that Youngstown was going into the ADC process and going to be taken over, et cetera, I started reading everything that I could possibly read about the issue so that I would be knowledgeable to try to understand. Plus, I'm a Youngstowner, so I wanted to really know what was going on with the Youngstown schools. I graduated from South High School in Youngstown, so I said, what? So as I began to read and try to understand, and then begin to look at some of the political things, I said, wow, this is wrong on every single solitary issue. Then I heard about Lorain, and that Lorain had embraced the House Bill 70 process, and that they were really going to cooperate with everyone, and they were going to turn this process around, and students and children and families were going to benefit from it. So I look around, and about 7 months later, all types of things were in the press about Lorain and what was happening, and I began to read even more. And then when East Cleveland, when we were threatened, that's when I put on my little shoes and start going everywhere I possibly can to learn more about the process and see what was happening. But in the meantime, before it even came to us, teachers began to leave the system. Teachers who had been there for years and wanted to retire from the East Cleveland school system. They left because they were scared of what had happened in Youngstown and what had happened in Lorain, and so they were expecting it to happen in East Cleveland, and they left. Not only that, right here we have a grandparent in here whose daughter left and took her children out of the system because she was afraid. That's only one incident that I'm telling you about, and the grandmother's right here so that she can share with you as well. It's happened all over our city, that people were moving out of our city because of House Bill 70. That's before it even came. teachers began to leave. So therefore, at the start of this school year, we started at a deficit because of House Bill 70, and it really hadn't even came yet. It is the most destructive. How in the world could this governor have even, and he wants to run for president? Can you imagine what would happen across the United States if he got in any of those policies? Well, look what has happened with our cities, with our students, with our community. And on that note, I'm not passionate about it either. I'll pass it over.
Well, for us, the biggest concern we had was that Youngstown was under academic distress in 2010. So what did HB70 fix if the state already had control over academics in our district? I mean, it was them revamping their plan about their performance and not ours, because they had total control of our academic process. And no vote that our board had passed during that time was bad for education. Anything our superintendents needed during that time, they got. It may not have been a unanimous vote, but they got the vote to get whatever they needed to get the job done. So our focus was, why create this bill that puts more emphasis on destroying the local control piece when the state already had control? How would measures need to be taken for the state to revamp what they do? I don't think that's new legislation. I think that's a new approach to education and how we view it in Ohio. One of the pieces that I'll add to this piece, we lost a lot of staff too, and part of that loss was not only because HB70 was coming. It was a big part of it, but the other part was because the state had changed requirements for retirement for teachers, so they had to get out early. So some of that change impacted us in a way to where we lost. We had an average of 10 years of experience for our teachers, and that dropped to 7. So I want to be known that HB70 played a huge role in that,
yes.
But also how we treat education in our state played a bigger role in making us lose 10-year professionals that had to retire in order to have a better life after education or after their jobs. So that was a huge thing for us. Another thing, how HB70 has impacted us is the lack of money being spent in the classroom. If this is an academic issue, why is it in our district that in the first year that the CEO took over, $6.1 million less was spent in the classroom? Then an additional 0.8% the following year, which is about 7.2%. So we're looking at, if you look at the time period from when the CEO came in to now, there's been $13 million less spent in the classroom. How do you fix an academic problem when you spend less in the classroom? We talked about, prior to HB70, prior to us having a CEO, was right-sizing our district. So we were shrinking our administrative costs, like losing people through attrition and that sort of thing. And he hired 32 people at 100K to 120K salaries. And we pick up their retirement.
Wow.
We pick up another 10% of their retirement. So how did that fix our problem? And then the solution to this piece to kind of balance the budget was to eliminate 18 people who were in direct services like social workers and that sort of thing. 18 people lost their jobs at a total of $600,000. But we spent $600,000 under the CEO just in our coaching for our sports. But you get rid of social workers and you increase you create 32 new positions at 100+ salaries. You know, so we're talking about $3.5 million in salaries. So how do we come back from that? How do we come back from us having a surplus of $23 million, now of us having a surplus of $10 million? He used $13 million in 1 year. He started practices that weren't sustainable. You can't spend at that volume and be able to sustain that process. So that's the problem we're in, is that even when this comes to an end, we have to make some strict changes on how we look at the educational futures of our children based off the money that's been spent in 1 year.